playing soccer, whatever. I just totally hated it. But then, I got really good at it. So we had a really good business. Then we moved here, and then I went to Santa Barbara High School, played soccer there, and then I said, when I go to City College, I'm going to go to the culinary school. Because I had a friend that was going here, and then I thought it's the easy thing to do, and I just loved cooking. And my grandma was a great cook. So I just thought, okay, I just do that. That would be the easiest thing to do. I hated school. So that was just the only thing I said, well, I'll just cook. I know how to do that really well, so how hard can that be, So I was just thinking that. And yeah, my first job was McDonald's. I don't know if anybody has a job or is working at a restaurant or a fast food restaurant. Well, my first job was McDonald's. And, I thought this sucks, this or that, But then I realized, when I was working for them, they have great systems on how they do things, And they put some good food, So, and it's family owned, and I just love what they were doing. And I was like, okay, I'm going to get involved in City College because, and I never did, just because I get in trouble and doing what we all do, just go out and not focus, And I just thought okay, maybe I can just read, and I can learn this, And then, my friend let me use one of his books. And I was, I learned some stuff, and I just went from one job to another, working at different restaurants. I went to Arigato and got a job as a server, but I got really intrigued about the fish. It was just magical, the way these guys were, the Japanese, they were all sushi chefs, all Japanese. And I was like, man, these guys are so good, they were so skilled with their knives and stuff. So I thought that was kind of neat. And then they saw I was kind of interested, well, if you want, you can help us, You can wash the rice and clean the fish. So I did that for 6 months, and then eventually I became a sushi chef there. I loved it. I worked there for 10 years. I became the head sushi chef there. And everything was going great for me, making really good money and making tips at probably the best sushi bar in Santa Barbara, probably in the top 5 or 6 best in California. Nova's number 1, of course, but it's an amazing place, and I had it going easy, just cruising, doing what I do, just going there, beautiful girls, going to the sushi bar, making tips, perfect world, But at the same time, I just wanted, in the back of my mind, I was like, you know what? I'm a chef. I need to be challenged. I want to create new food, the way people think about food. And I wanted to bring the food that I grew up with to Santa Barbara, just the way I imagine it. I never, because I never had burritos or nachos or those big quesadillas that people eat here. Never, growing up. So I thought, why are people eating like this? And, it's like people would be like, I'm not going to call any names, but, why is the best Mexican restaurant in town? And it was those things, burritos, this and that, which they're great sometimes. But anyways, I wanted to do that. But I'm working at a sushi bar. How am I going to do this? I'm making sushi, but I want to cook the food that I grew up with. I just wanted. So, and I said, if I can cook the food that I love to eat, I grew up with, but put my own twist, then I can do that. So, anyways, there was an opportunity to open a restaurant here in town called Cielito. Acapulco used to be there a long time ago. I mean, you're all too young probably to remember that, but there was a Acapulco restaurant there in La Arcada. So I met with the owners, and I told them about my idea just about food. And the funny thing, when I was working at Arigato, I was thinking I just want to cook with fire, because you're doing all cold stuff. And I said, how can I bring some of the knowledge that I got from Arigato? And sometimes when you get a job, and I'm sure all of you are here because you want to be a chef, right? I mean, all of you are watching, now with TV, internet, everything, all the chefs, this book that you guys are reading, I read this book, I don't know, 6 years ago, whenever it came out. My wife bought it for me, and I probably read it twice, probably, and I didn't have a teacher like Luis, a great teacher like Luis, walking you through the book. I just read it, because I knew I didn't have an education, so I needed to learn on my own. So I was buying books left and right, any chance I got from magazines, clips. I mean, I have boxes and boxes of all this food stuff. My wife is like, "Are you ever really going to read that again?" I don't know, but I just have it. I have a ton of books. And that's how I learned. Most of my style, my cooking, I learned from just reading and applying myself. And the skill that I learned, arigato, helped me a lot. At that time, I thought it was a waste of time. But when we opened Cielito, the one first thing that when you walk into Cielito, it's a beautiful restaurant. The first thing you see to the right is a sushi bar, not a sushi bar, a roll bar that serves ceviche. It's the only Mexican restaurant in Santa Barbara that serves, ceviches. Now there's a movement. In LA, you go with ceviche, there's ceviche pop-ups, there's ceviche restaurants. Ricardo Zárate, one of the best Peruvian ceviche chefs in Los Angeles, cooked in Peru, England, LA. Three of the best restaurants in Los Angeles is Ricardo Zárate. It's all about ceviche. So there's a movement. I was doing it, arigato, without even knowing. So that was kind of neat. So when we put the menu together, I wanted to highlight and bring ceviche to the restaurant. Here's a couple of the menus that we just, that we have right now. The neatest thing about, when I make the decision to go to Cielito, it was risky. It was like, I already, I'm comfortable, I'm doing my thing. Just kind of like you guys, sometimes you're so comfortable doing what you're doing, whatever it is. But if you follow your passion and love for whatever it is that you do, you'll succeed. And I didn't see it then, but now at Cielito, it's our second year. This is going to be our second year. I changed the menu maybe 3 times already. Different specials. I use a lot of seasonal stuff. I like the ocean is just right here. We have some of the best uni in the world. Spotted prawns, halibut, lobsters, plain lobsters. And in some of those I highlight them always when I change my menus. I try to bring those to the mix. Right now the uni is coming up. Spotted prawns also. I use local oysters from Cayuga. So I always use local stuff that I can introduce. At Arigato, I couldn't do that. I was not able to do that. So at Cielito, I enter into this kind of creative season in my life. At 40 years old, I thought like, wow, I'm getting old, like, now what? But the funny thing is, I'm in charge of changing the menus, and me and my chefs there, we always taste the food, try new stuff. Like right now, like I said, this is a brand new menu. We just changed it like this last week. I added an octopus dish. Octopus is kind of risky. Not everybody knows how to do it well. But if you figure out how to do it well, of course with practice and skill, you eventually get good at it. Most people, they always say, how do you cook it? Even chefs in town, how do you cook it? How do you make it so tender? But you just practice. If you practice, you eventually get it. So whatever you do, whether it's cutting fish, or cutting onions or whatever, the simplest things that you think doesn't matter, even sitting here and learning something from the teacher, you always look back and go like, wow, that I learned that, and at that time I was hating it, but now it's helping me. So some of the menus, it's funny, the octopus, I grew up eating octopus. I grew up eating oysters. It's weird, like oysters, like my dad used to love to go to this seafood place. It was called Mariscos El Compa. So he had all these different ceviches and stuff. So we used to eat all this seafood. And now, I'm making a lot of this stuff. And some of the ideas of the dishes came from that little taco stand that this guy used to have for fish tacos and tacos in Guadalajara. So that's kind of neat. But the octopus, we just change it. I always, when I travel, I always have I always carry one of these. If you guys, this is one of the things that I learned from the chef from Arigato and many chefs. Rick Bayless, Tom Kilikio, any of those guys, they always have a notepad. They always have, because, they're smart guys, they're brilliant minds, but you always, so I always have one of these. I recommend you when you travel, when you go to a restaurant, some of the best dishes that I have, I swear, at Cielito, it's from street food that I had in Mexico, in Tijuana. People go like, really? You got the idea from Tijuana? I did. Last octopus dish that I had, it had avocado mousse, chorizo verde, roasted fennel, and a little bit of achiote on the octopus. It was delicious. And people like, how do you put this together? And then, like I said, I had an octopus taco in Ensenada, and I was just like, okay, I'm just going to translate it and put it into my own thing. And it worked. Another dish that we have is an octopus based more in the Mediterranean. It has goat and Greek yogurt, and it has a little bit of Peruvian olives, fennel, cauliflower, and again, it's always, I always think of flavors. How can I bring these flavors and textures and stuff, like I said, that I learned arigato and other restaurants that I thought like I'm not learning anything, but I took notes, took pictures, and I go back and some of the dishes that even like I have a dish that my grandma used to make for me. That people go like, wow, like it's delicious, and it's just stuff that that is nice when you get to a point in your life when you can actually create this stuff. It's a cool thing, so one of the regrets I have, in my life, I think you're all gonna look at your life sometime and go like, oh, I wish I did that, I wish I did that. So going to culinary school, I never went to culinary school. I'm not, many chefs didn't go to culinary school, and you guys read that here, Mario Vitale, Rick Bayless, Alice Waters, all these brilliant minds, but there are people that apply themselves into one thing and they focus and they just do it, and that's just kind of like what I did. That's what I'm doing with Chilito. That's what all these chefs did. It's going great, at Chilito right now. Like I said, we just changed our menu. Summer is super busy for us. We almost do 400 covers a night. Yeah, and it's not cheap. You can look at the prices. It's not a cheap restaurant. It's about $40, $50 a person. So it's not a cheap restaurant. But everything that we have, it's a lot of the stuff is farmers market, local fish. I use only fish from sashimi quality, so it's not cheap either. So I just take so much pride in what we do as far as the fish, and like I said, it's a lot of hard work. I mean, that's one thing I have to tell you all. I mean, I don't know whether you want to be a chef the cuisine like me, a restaurant. If you just want to be the best cook in town, if you want to open your small cafe, deli, taqueria, whatever you want, a pizza place, it doesn't matter. It's still going to take a lot of work. It's probably going to be the hardest thing you would ever do in your life. I'm going to say that right now. So anybody that thinks it's an easy piece of cake, I just do this, I can cook, it's not easy. It's very hard, long hours, forget about holidays, forget about, but there's the coolest thing about that you can bring the people that you love around it. Your friends, you can cook for your friends, cook for your family, they come to your restaurant. So it becomes a lifestyle that is needed. It's hard work, a lot of hours, a lot of time. And anything that you do, whether it's cooking school, sports, music, it doesn't just take talent. It takes will, heart, skill. Apply yourself. Learn every day. Put your time. And eventually, you get the chance, because people ask me sometimes, like, how do you become executive chef of a restaurant? I didn't even know I was executive chef, to be honest. I just apply. They like me. I put a menu together. Like some of the stuff on the menu, like quinoa. Like people never had quinoa at a Mexican restaurant before. I'm doing a salad with quinoa, watermelon. So I was just doing stuff that I like to eat, and it worked. People liked it. The people that tried the food, they were like, "Wow, this is neat. This is different. It's cool." No one is doing it in town. Why not? So, like I said, if you're really serious about cooking, I mean, if you are in this class, I hope that's. Otherwise, you're wasting your time and Luis's time. To be honest, be on time. And I mean, he didn't pay me to say this. Be on time. Have a notepad. Cook. Any chance you get, cook. Whether it's a catering company. I mean, you can talk to my sister or anybody that knows me. People take vacations to go to the water. I went to beach towns that I never touched that water, because I want to go and try the seafood and try more of the cuisine of the culture of the people. I go inland where there's just tribes and people that are eating just like super basic food, but that's where I get my inspiration from. I do that all the time. I do that at least twice a year. I travel, I save my money, I travel, and sometimes my wife is kind of scared of Mexico, so she doesn't go with me, so I travel by myself a lot of times, and people are like, really, you're going to go by yourself there for a week? Yeah. And I just go and take my backpack and my notepad and, take pictures, eat food, talk to the locals, see what they do, how they do it, stuff, and I learn a lot. I learn from that, and so basically what you're learning here, again, it's a big step that is going to help you. I wish I took the time and, I had the will to just be like you in a class like this where people can actually teach me some stuff. Charlie, Luis, they're great teachers. I wish I had a degree, With that, you can go anywhere. I have a degree. I cook at these 3 restaurants. You have a job, And it's neat. I mean, I'm telling you, when people said arigato in front of me, or even at Cielito, people sit in front of me, people that have amazing jobs, doctors, lawyers, even investors, sitting in front of me, and, you can tell, the wealthy people, Rolex, nice suit, this and that, and they're just like, man, I just love what you do. I wish I can do what you do. I wish I was doing that. I'm in a hotel, in an airplane, I don't see my family for 2 or 3 weeks, I have a lot of money, but I hate it. I wish I could be doing what you're doing. Again, it goes back to the passion. If it's something that you do, you don't do it for money, because the money comes, eventually. Whatever you do, executive chef, open your own thing, or you just cook. The money's going to come, but it's going to take those years of hard work, passion, getting involved. Like Liz was saying, this thing that they have right now, get involved, do it, try it, go and see it. Anytime there's something in LA, I drive over there. There's some food festival, I get involved, I go and see it. Farmers market, whatever it is, get involved and you'll see. And at least you find out if you really have it or you don't have it. Don't waste your time for, another 2 years. But if you, like I said, if you put the time, the passion, love into it, it'll come together. It'll all come together. I'm telling you, but it's going to take time. And it's not just cooking. Whatever you do, if you guys want to do something else, it's going to be the same thing. You know what I mean? So for me, it was good. I'm lucky. I'm blessed that I'm surrounded by people that see my passion and feel my passion, and the owners are getting ready to open other restaurants, and I'm part of it. We're thinking of opening a seafood-based restaurant in the Function. So we're talking about that. We're talking about doing other smaller projects, and so it's cool. I didn't think it was going to go anywhere. It's just opened my doors to many things, But so that's that, guys. I mean, I don't know what else. If you all have any questions, I can answer any questions. I'll go with you.
What did your family do when they came here? Did they open a restaurant?
We had a restaurant in Guadalajara. It's the second biggest city in Mexico. It was just a little, they call it fonda. It would be like a bistro or a cafe here. It was just a little thing my mom did. My dad was here working with my uncle. He owns a ranch in San Ynez, so he was working with him, and we just had a little, kind of like a cafe where we cook for all the neighbors and stuff. And I came here, like I said, not knowing what I wanted to do in my life. Went to school. I didn't really like school. I wanted to play sports, but food just came natural for me because I grew up doing it. So now it's easy. It's easier in a sense that now with the internet, magazines, books, I mean, it's all over the place. I mean, you can't, even if you don't try to think about food, you think about food all day long. And I just thought, like, if I can get paid to eat and cook, why not? So that was kind of like my thing.
Did Mom immigrate here? What did she do here when she got here?
It's funny. She worked at a small restaurant. Now she's the manager of like a flower department. She's not doing food. It's funny. She said, "Let's open a restaurant here." And I said, "No, you're not cooking anymore," because I watched her cook for like 10 years, and it's hard work. So I'm like, "No, you don't need to cook. You're making good money. Don't do that."
So there's a place, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
In Guadalajara, that's where you came from, right?
Yes.
Where would you tell us to go? Someone's going for 2 weeks.
Who's going to Guadalajara?
There we go.
Yeah. Are you going?
My brother lives up there.
Your brother lives. Yeah. Guadalajara is, when people think Guadalajara, they always think, mariachis, tequila. Tequila comes to mind. But Guadalajara is a neat place because, like I said, it's a big city, but the surroundings is really beautiful. You have the lake, which is Chapala Lake. It's a huge lake. There's a lot of really good seafood there. Then it's also kind of like flatland, so there's a lot of good cheeses, meats. I mean, you name it. Some of the best restaurants are in Guadalajara. The best ones I think is in Mexico City right now. But in Guadalajara, there's a lot of just traditional food. Like the main markets. The market, San Juan de Dios, is probably one of the biggest indoor markets in the world. I mean, you can spend a whole day there in the market. It's really neat. Guadalajara is really cool. There's a lot of culture. There's a lot of food. Tequila, of course, you can just drive through the tequila plantations and stuff, and it's amazing. You can just spend days there also. It's really neat.
Since you're into reading, do you have a good recommendation for preparing fish? Because my husband will bring home fish every now and then
Yeah.
he catches, and I butcher it to death, and I need like...
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, I have two books that I love about fish, and I can't remember their. I want to say it's For the Love of Fish. If you want, I can leave you. You can give me your email or your phone number, and I text you both of them. There's a chef in Vegas who has a restaurant that I call it. His name is Rick Moon. He also has a just centric restaurant, just fish. That's all they do. And his book is called Fish Without a Doubt. That's an amazing book. But the other one is called. It's a lady from up north, and she does all the preparations, just simple preparations with fish. And of course, I have like a lot of like Nobu and stuff. That's a little bit too complicated. Those other ones are a little bit more simpler. They're easy for I mean, you can cook anything. I mean, they have from salted crab to to razor clams or local fish. Yeah, uni. Anybody else? Yeah.
When you cook your octopus, do you put a cork in it?
I don't. Yeah, I read about that.
It's a superstition.
Yeah, I tried. It's almost the same idea, but it's different. It all depends on where you learn. I know that's more French or Italian. They do that. I actually do it a little bit more Japanese style. Okay. I get the octopus. The octopus that I use, they're Mediterranean octopus from Spain. So that's why I think it's a big. That's a big reason why they're so good. You can use from Mexico or even more South America, but they're a little bit smaller and they're a little bit tougher. Northwest octopus is also good, but they're huge. So you have to. I mean, they're fresh. I mean, you get them. Usually, I wash them with salt, sea salt, and water. I get a daikon, Japanese daikon, and I pound it until it gets nice and tender. It's almost like a mussel, if you will. And I just do the traditional braising. I do red wine vinegar, carrot, celery, bay leaves, salt, a little bit of salt, garlic. And the key to it also, when you put the octopus in the water, if you think about it, the water is boiling. So if you put the octopus in there just at once, it's like a giant mussel. It does this. It shocks. So what I do, I tempt it. So I do one, I take it out, then I put it back in. I do that 5 times so the octopus can get used to the temperature of the water. It's weird. People go like, it's already dead. It doesn't matter. It makes a difference. I'm telling you, Justin from Julian, another amazing restaurant in town. I mean, if you ever want to go to a good restaurant, have money, have a date, want to go, Julian, it's another amazing restaurant. Julian, Cielito. I mean, we have some good restaurants in town, guys. I mean, you guys are lucky. I mean, now there's a movement. Of course, LA has big chefs. Vegas, San Francisco. But Santa Barbara is not, we have some good food. I mean, Anthony Bourdain came here. He went to Juliana. He was like, man, you guys are not joking around here. He tried a couple of restaurants in town, and he was like, and he comes from New York where, restaurants is like everywhere. And they have the best food. I mean, from Korean to Cuban to Israeli food, Italian in New York. And he came here and he's like, man, you guys are doing something right. So that's good. We have good food. You guys have a great school. You guys can get good jobs here.
Did you come up with that happy hour menu they have there?
Yeah.
The food on there is amazing.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the whole thing it's the whole menu. It was like I said, it was one of the the neatest things, when I first started doing my menu, this is crazy. When I started doing the menu, one day they asked me, do the menu for Cielito. You always start with a master menu, so it was a huge menu. I mean, I swear to you, the first tasting that I did for them, it was a 22 tasting, because I was so excited. I just wanted to give them everything that I had. But then later I realized that less is more, so, you know, so now it's more focused. Now that the menu is, my menu used to be twice as big as what it is now. I mean, if you guys see it, it used to be huge. The menu I had, you know, the roll bar was bigger, there was more ceviches, the antojitos to me is cravings. It's almost like tapas for Spanish, or Chinese dim sum or sushi for Japanese. The same idea. Antojitos is food that you just crave, you just gotta have. Think of happy hour, you always want, and that's kind of like the idea. When we did the menu, I'm like, man, I like to, when I go out and I drink, I like to eat a lot of different flavors, textures, different. So people around the world, they're already doing it. In Mexico, we were doing it already in a shack with my mom, but I didn't realize. I just thought, like, because people would come there and would get, hey, Imelda, let me get one of these, or one, let me, and then people would have 5 or 6 different things. And growing up, I didn't think anything of it. But now I look back, I'm like, dude, we're doing this already with my mom. It's funny, you know, and I never seen Spain or read a cooking book or done anything. But looking back, it's like, wow. So, yeah, so the happy hour, yeah, that's definitely street food. Tacos al pastor, tinga, mole, black mole from Totopos from Oaxaca. That's one of the, you know, just simple street food. And I think right now street food everywhere, American, Chinese, Japanese, Mexican, South American, is where it's at. I think big flavors, you know, not as expensive as a sit-down meal, dinner. And that's kind of Cielito. Cielito is a beautiful restaurant. It's a nice restaurant. If I was picking the location and the space and the decor, I would probably made it more casual, to be honest. I like to eat more casual. I like to go to places where you can be wearing sandals and shorts and just get a beer or something and get some good food, you know. Still nice, but it doesn't have to be in a fancy environment. But
On your octopus, is that something you discovered yourself in cooking octopus, or is it something that you learned from somebody else?
well, the daikon, washing the daikon and pounding the daikon, I learned that from arigato. So I learned that arigato. The traditional method of doing the octopus, I actually learned that from which book I was reading? Thomas Keller. I was reading Thomas Keller's book about octopus, and I just kind of put the 2 and 2 together. It wasn't like I took his recipe. I just, you know, like he doesn't put bay leaves, I don't think. No bay leaves. I put chile de árbol on mine. You know, I use a lot of different stuff. Like when I do my bracing for my pork belly, I do rosemary, chile de árbol, honey, salt. Totally, you know, most people do salt, sugar, you know, bay leaves, garlic. And I always try to add my own thing to it. Is it, you know, some chef, maybe more French, more traditional, might say, that's not how you do it. It works for me, so I just do it. Yes, sir.
I cook the octopus with the ink in it?
No, actually, when I get it, it doesn't have the ink. I wish it did, but it doesn't. Yeah, I know, but yeah, we get it, and it doesn't have the ink. So I wish it did. I got some calamares, and you know, they had the ink. So we did this dish called Tinta Latina one time, and it was kind of like a mess to deal with the ink, but it was fun once we got it together. Yeah. Yes.
How long do you tenderize the octopus for?
You know, literally just like for 5 minutes. It doesn't take that long. You just hit it until you see it like the.
Like a particular texture or something to it?
No. I think it's just like when you did it, it almost like it relaxes, if you will. It relaxes, so it's not. Because, I don't know. When we get it, we don't get the fresh octopus. When we used to get the octopus, it was fresh. The whole leg was this thick, and then when we cooked it, it shrink like this much. And they cook it differently. Everywhere is different. They do daikon, breaded daikon. They do sea salt. They do kombu. So it's a total different thing. You know, what I did was a little bit more traditional. I just added a couple other things. It's funny. Like Hungry Cat, it's another really good restaurant in Santa Barbara. A guy that was working there, he said, "Man, we're doing sous vide." There was sous vide in braise, sous vide, grill, and was still not tender. So I don't know if we got lucky and it just works. I mean, and now it's like, people think like, oh, well, yeah, you're a chef, you're doing it. I have the line cook guy, I have the pantry guy doing it. He does it, it's not like I'm doing it, but we have a system. He already knows how to like it. He knows, also when before, like, it's funny, Justin from Julian, he cooked the octopus, so he's like, man, it takes me 3 hours to cook this thing. By the time it's cooked, it's like this big. Because they like this big, it's like, what are you doing? So, again, I think the pounding, the red vinegar, with the herbs and stuff, it just, the whole thing just kind of tenderizes the octopus. And then what you do when you have it at high, you start at high. Once you put the octopus in there, you put the lid on and you lower it. Because if you have it high, it's another thing. I don't know if it's like the muscle or the octopus or what science is behind it. If the octopus feels like it's just too much stuff going on in there, it doesn't cook correctly. I don't know. I mean, you guys are, those of you that cook octopus, it's the same thing. And then also it breaks the skin and the texture of it if you have it too high. So you lower it and you just let it go for 50 minutes. That's it. It doesn't take 3 hours. People go like, 3 hours? No, 50 minutes. It's done. It's over. And we just sear it a la plancha, and then, it's delicious. And people, like I said, people are like always surprised, Any more questions?
You say boil it for 50 minutes, low heat.
Yeah.
Then you put it on the griddle.
Yeah, you can do many things. I had done different ways. Once you poach the octopus, you take it out, you shock it in ice water, you leave it alone. Then at that point, you can do whatever you want. You can marinate it with olive oil and garlic if you want. You can just poach it and leave it in there. You can sous vide it. At this point it's going to be cooked, so you don't sous vide, but you can grill it. In Peru they do anticuchos, which is like a skewer. They put the octopus in a skewer. They put some kind of like a chili paste, or they call it rocoto. It's a chili from Peru, and they put a paste, like a glaze if you will, and they put it right on the grill. And they serve it with Peruvian potatoes, purple potatoes and stuff like that. That's very, very Peruvian. If you do it more a la plancha like Spain, those guys just put it like just on the flat top or on a pan, just with a little bit of paprika, lemon, olive oil, and it's done. It's very simple. It all depends on which way you want to go with it. But the cool thing is once you have it, you can do whatever you want. Like I said, now the one I'm doing has yogurt, Greek yogurt and goat yogurt, with I do a little bit of curry oil with it. It totally works. The original one that we ever did was fennel with Peruvian olives and chickpea puree. Again, it's just flavors, it's just textures. Like I said, when you travel and when you taste stuff, I'm telling you, you look back at some of the notes that you took and some of the pictures that you took and you go, wow, this will work with this. And you just try it. Like you tell me how many times. I don't remember how many times. I just remember trying it, didn't work, try it again, didn't work. Luckily for me, the owners were like, we had a test kitchen. And I just tried it. I tried different stuff. What's working, what's not working. Like the pork belly quesadilla that we have on the menu. I tried to take it out. It was like, people were like, no. So I had to put it back. It's the same thing. It's like just carnitas, but it's delicious. A couple of things, if you saw the menu, we have huaraches. My menu has huaraches right now. Huarache is, if you ever go to Mexico City, if you guys are, serious about cooking, which you are, I assume, if you ever can travel to Mexico City, I think Mexico City is the greatest capital in the world of food. Believe me. You go there, you find from the simplest grilled skirt steak tacos. Of course, they use wood. That's the whole difference right there. They use wood, and of course, fresh meat and a simple salsa. To some of the most, refined restaurants in the world. It's amazing. So if you have money and time, save your money, save your time. Go, with your parents or by yourself, save some money. I'm telling you, it's not dangerous. It's easy to get to. You can. There's a market there called La Merced. They have this huaraches, and huarache translates to people in. Here we always think about tacos. When you think Mexican, we always think tacos, and that's the one thing I discovered when I went to Mexico City. Antojitos, or the corn flour, the corn dough that they use, they can do anything, and each day the coolest thing, they do a different thing. I thought that was the neatest thing. Because me being from Mexico, I just thought, like, we'll just have sopes and tacos. No, each state has a different thing with dough, corn dough. It's so creative. It's unbelievable. In Mexico City, they have these things called huaraches. So basically, it translates to a sandal, a giant. Seriously, you go to this market, the guy is doing this huarache this big. I swear, this big. And then he puts a little bit of oil. He puts the ladies, they have it down. She has this weird press, and she just, the huarache is like almost like a giant flatbread, if you will. This big, $2, whatever you want. Chorizo, cactus. I mean, he asks you, what would you like? Egg, fried egg right on top. And he cuts it up a little bit. He puts some cream and some salsas right on top. He gives it to you. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, street food, $3 and you're done. You're good. So, so my new menu has a couple of huaraches. They're more refined, of course. I have one that has wild mushrooms, truffle oil, popcorn shoot, and it's just a little bit of cream and like a chili salsa. And then the other one is a duck confit. It has duck, tamarind glaze. And it's just stuff that I have to bring it to that level for the restaurant. But
have you ever tried stuffing with beets?
yeah, that's another thing that we did. There's a dish that they do in Yucatan. It's called panucho, and they stuff it with beans. They make the tortilla, and then when the tortilla, when they flip it, it rises. They open it. They put a little bit of black beans, and usually.
My mom does it. Before she makes it flat,
Yeah.
she makes it into balls, makes it more
Yeah.
they're supposed to do it and flat.
Yeah, those are called tlacoyos. Those are another one from Mexico City, outside of Mexico City. Tlacoyos are like that. They put the beans, they infuse it with the beans. And it's funny, we've done wine dinners, and I introduce some of these things. I don't do the whole thing, but I introduce it like a little thing with my dish. And sometimes, if I go and talk to the table, sometimes I talk about the location or the place, and that's kind of cool. People get to learn where stuff is coming from. Yes?
Do you ever make pupusas?
Pupusas? I never made pupusas. I think that's more Salvador, right? From Salvador. Yeah, I never made them. I had them, but it's pretty similar. Someone asked me, a lady that I had working there, let's make some. We never got to it, but yeah, they're delicious. Yeah. Yes.
Where do you put your tamarind sauce? Because every now and then when I mess with tamarind, it will taste like throw up.
Yeah, it's definitely a acquired taste. Even now I have a tamarind agua fresca, and for some reason, nothing against anybody, but Americans don't like the flavor. That's right. Yeah, I don't know what it is.
It's fine. And then sometimes
But
put something in it that throws it
maybe a tamarind margarita might work. I don't know.
What do you
No. Well, tamarind you can get in different ways. If you get the whole thing, where you actually have to like peel it and cook it in water, that's a lot of work. Nowadays, with the industry, there is a paste already. Perfect Prairie has it. Lazy Acres, Whole Foods, maybe Berryman has it. And then I usually with it, if you just do it straight by itself, it's too sweet. So we almost make like a barbecue with it. We put a little bit of ketchup, vinegar, Worcestershire. We put the tamarind. Just a little bit of honey, water, and then we just reduce it a little bit. Yeah, because that way it tastes a little bit like barbecue, but then the tamarind kind of hits you at the end. But it's not this like tamarind, like it's tart, sweet. It's a little bit Asian for sure. Yeah.
Are you using Thai-based soups?
Yeah. So they use in many ways. So yeah, the duck goes real well with the one duck that we have, and we put local dates and what else do we do? Like walnuts and yeah. So it's good. It's a good dish.
I'll make a suggestion.
Yeah.
We used to make cochinita pibil, which is Maya,
Yeah.
with shelled toast,
Right.
wrap the banana leaves in the oven.
Yeah.
Can you make some of that?
Yeah, we have it. We do it on Saturdays. We have cochinita pibil. I went to Yucatan. I went with a family, and the same thing. This is the neatest thing. I think food is the coolest things because if you can go to a place where they actually make something, and it can be Italian, Japanese, Hawaiian food. If you can go to a place where they're actually doing it, not in a restaurant, in a home, or how they do it traditionally, is the coolest thing. In Yucatan, I went to this little town where they do it. And the guy, Vicente, I went with Vicente, and he's like, how do you do it? You know, I talked to the guy. He was selling it at the market. Cochinita pibil, I had it. I was like, man, this is so good. Can you show me? And a lot of times you get asked. You know, the guy could easily say, like, you know, you're crazy. You're going to take my recipe or something, you know? I'm like, no, I already have a recipe. Could you just show me, what do you do? You know, don't tell me what's in it. I already know what's in it. Just tell me, you know, because I've been cooking with it. I've been trying the different recipes. So we have a good one. I said, just show me, because, you know, we do it in the oven and it's not as good. So he showed me. So they marinate the pork. Cochinita pibil is from the state of Yucatan. It's almost like if you were doing, you know, like pork in Hawaii, the kalua, the lua pig or whatever they do, they heat up the stones, they put the pig and the banana leaves or whatever, and they cover it. Same idea. The neatest thing about food, Hawaii, they're doing that. In Yucatan, Mexico, they're doing that. In Cuba, they do it differently. They have a caja china, so it's this box, and they do the same thing. It has metal inside, they heat it up, and they put the pig in there, but they do mojo, so they do more like garlic, sour orange, and stuff like that, and then they roast the pig. But it's the same idea. You know, the final product, of course, the taste is totally different. But yeah, in Yucatan, I went there with Vicente. You know, he puts the thing at 6 in the morning, covers it, you know, puts a big piece of heavy metal on top, dirt. You know, he puts banana leaves and some kind of other avocado leaves or something like that, just for flavor. Covers it, and like 6, sometimes 8 hours, he leaves it in there. He leaves it alone. You know, first he puts wood in there. He gets it really hot to maybe 800 degrees, and it slowly goes down little by little to, you know, maybe like 100 degrees, 80 degrees or less. He had stones in it. Yeah, it was a pit in his backyard. And then later, you know, I came back like at 4 in the afternoon, and we tried the tacos. It was so good. I mean, you know, it seems like a lot of work, but you know, I mean, that guy's been doing it for 30 years. You know, so he was like so easy. So, but the best thing about that is the sauce. They make a sauce with habaneros. Habaneros from Yucatan is different than habaneros that we see here. The habaneros that we see here are bright orange. Habaneros from Yucatan, they're green. And they're not as spicy like that. They're almost sweet and spicy. They're totally different. That was the biggest discovery for me.
They put cumin?
Yeah, they do cumin, achote, sour orange. There's an orange that they have there. It's in between kind of like a lemon and an orange that they put in the pork when they marinate it. But yeah, the sour orange, at the restaurant I do a combination of oranges and limes. So I make kind of my own sour orange, because we can't get that sour orange here, so we do that over there. It's good. It's a good dish. Saturdays we have it, cochinita pibil.
I used to make it, I don't make it anymore.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, but the cool thing about it is that you can make a whole thing. I mean, pork shoulder, marinate it. If you guys want a recipe, I can get it for you guys. It's pretty cool, because you can marinate the whole thing, pork shoulder, leave it in the, just marinate it overnight. The next day, you can go to Santa Cruz Market, get some banana leaves, roast them to get them soft. You can do it in a pan or whatever you have, like a hotel pan or pot, whatever you have. And just, you put the cochinita, banana leaves, cochinita, cover it, put a little bit of water, put it in the oven for like 4 hours. Man, you're in business. You can have 30 people over. And you don't have to be cooking like crazy, because you have 30 people over. Because everybody can share, just make like a salsa, make some black beans, and everybody just share it. Just put it on the table, everybody gets tacos. It's kind of cool, because then you bring culture and then food to just one meal, and you don't have to be cooking all day doing, tri-tip and stuff, which is, tri-tip, it's also another cool thing, but, then you got to be watching it and marrying it. It's just like, I'm not a big tri-tip guy, but yeah, a lot of people are good at it. Santa Maria. Or Luis. Excuse me?
What do you use wine or vinegar to make it more tender, the pork?
The pork? No, we don't use vinegar. We use actually, it might have red wine vinegar. I can't remember right now, but red wine vinegar. Yeah, a little bit.
Cheaper wine and oil.
Yeah, we don't do wine, but I'm sure it's good. Any other questions? Stay.
What's your favorite item on your new menu? And besides Juliana, where do you like to go eat?
Favorite item on the menu? That's a tough one. It's kind of like if you have 5 kids and you go, which one is your favorite kid? It's like, you know. I don't know. I like everything. Ceviche at the restaurant is one of my favorite things, just because it's so light and refreshing, and I just love it. Funny thing is, like, the Oaxacan black beans are my favorite thing there. It's just, we do these beans at the restaurant called Oaxacan black beans. When people think black beans, people just think black beans, right? When I went to Oaxaca, I went and cooked with this lady, and she was like, we're going to make some frijoles modernos. She called it modern beans. I'm like, what is that? Modern beans. What is it? So she starts with olive oil, and then she would do onions, banana, avocado leaves in it. So the avocado dry leaves are almost like anise. So if you ever go by, like avocado farm, pick one of the leaves and smell it. It's like anise. It's weird. So she would cook the olive oil. I think she put shallots and onions and avocado leaves and chili from Mexico called morita, which is like a smoked jalapeno, if you will. And then she would do the morita in there. And then she put the black beans, already cooked, the black beans in there, and just blend the whole thing. I mean, the whole thing was delicious, and it was so simple, smoky, and then you can taste the olive oil, gave it this kind of like, buttery texture to the beans. I mean, it was delicious. We put it on our huaraches right now, that black bean paste.
Now, did she keep the avocado leaf in there?
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah, they're dry, but they're dry. So it's going to be like bay leaves or something dry, or like oregano. Yeah, she just, this guy his uncle has a farm, brings containers for us. And what was the other question? That was it.
Besides Julianne, where
Julianne, yeah, it's funny, people think like, oh, you have all this time to go on, I don't, because I cook sometimes 5-6 days a week. So, when it's my day off, I usually don't want to go out to eat. I just don't want to be near a server, because I'm always yelling at them at the restaurant because they don't know the menu. So I always don't want to be near a server. I usually don't like to get served. It's weird. I just like to go to places where I can just place my order, they bring me the food, and that's it. So I go to Justin because he knows, I usually don't order. He just, send me a bunch of stuff. He's like, oh, great, you came in. I got this and this and this and this to try. And usually it's weird stuff, like sweetbreads, and he does like frog legs with this or that. He does some cool stuff. So I like to go there with him. I don't go there too much, but I go. Cadario, I like Cadario. Cadario is another cool Italian restaurant. Solid. He's been doing it forever. It's funny, if you look at the restaurants, guys, Cadario, Downey's, Bouchon, Arigato, the good restaurants in town, even Superica, are the ones that have been doing the same thing consistently for like 20 years. They do what they do. They go every day. The guys do, it's the same guys working there for 20 years. Crazy. How are you going to stay in the same job for 20 years? They do. The guys are working there for 20 years. And maybe they don't make a lot of money, but they're still there. They're solid. They show up. They do the work. They put the time. They're on time. And that's why these restaurants are good. Not because of, the chefs are a big deal, of course. Downey, John from Downey, and Dario, Bill from Margarita, but those guys are not cooking anymore. They just oversee the whole thing. Who is cooking the food? The guys that show up. The guys that are cooking every day, And, they put some amazing food, those guys, so.
Is Arigato the one in between Victoria and...
Yeah. Bill, his name is Wataru, his real name in Japanese. He's also another story, another story behind food, someday he should have him come here and talk to you guys, but he's very shy. He's very Japanese, so he might not want to do that. He doesn't talk too much, but Bill is another story. When he came from Japan, he worked at an Italian restaurant in Japan. He moved to Chicago, because he thought like, I live in Tokyo, I moved to a big city, I'll be fine. He hated it. He was like, it's too cold, it's too windy. So he moved to Santa Barbara. He worked at Something's Fishy. Something's Fishy 20 years ago was really good. Something's Fishy now it's okay. But yeah, so Bill worked there. Naoya, that has the restaurant in Coast Village, another sushi chef who owns Sakana, also was working there. So some of the best sushi chefs in town used to work at Something's Fishy. 25 years ago when Santa Sushi was really good. So Bill from Arigato was the same thing, like someday I'm going to open my own thing. He put the time, he saved his money. He opened Arigato, original Arigato, with $10,000. This is like 85. Like, hole in the wall. The guy was, he's like, he didn't have time to go to the bank, so he was putting all the money in his closet. But he got too high that he couldn't go to the bank because he got very popular. I mean, lines, when I worked there, we would open at 5 o'clock, there was a line, because it was a small restaurant, 9 seats at the bar, 10 small tables. We opened at 5, we closed at 11, at 10:30, there was still a line out the door waiting to put their name down. And we're like, we're done. You can't even put your name. They didn't take any reservations. It was dark, loud music. He did it his way. Totally opposite to a traditional Japanese restaurant. He's like, I'm going to do rock and roll, California sushi, my way, my style, and it worked. Now the guy is like, it's a big restaurant. He has a house here, has it in Hawaii, has it in Japan. But he put the time. He deserves it. So, everybody else? Yeah.
What's your favorite ceviche?
Oh man, right now I actually like Peruvian ceviche, Peruano. I like Peruano. Peruano is cool because ceviche in Mexico is very different than Peru. Peru, Ecuador. I never been to Ecuador or Peru, but that's kind of like my next year. I think I'm going to get there. In Mexico, the ceviche from the Pacific is very different than the ceviche from the Gulf of Mexico. The Pacific is very simple. If you go to usually Mazatlan or Vallarta or Acapulco, it's very simple. Usually just lime, salt. They always start with lime and salt. And they usually just add the ingredients. And usually just onions, cilantro, tomatoes. And they get creative. They do maybe like some kind of tomato sauce or something like that. And the Gulf of Mexico is a little bit more Mediterranean. They use olives, capers, tomatoes. It's a little bit more in the influence of that. Veracruz is another great place for ceviches. But Peru, I think the reason why the ceviche from Peru is so much better because they have a big influence from Japanese. There's a huge community of Japanese that live there, Chinese and Japanese. And those guys are, they take a lot of pride with their fish and their vegetables. And then now they bring the elements of ginger, soy sauce, sesame oil, and then they put the two and two together, and that's why their ceviches have so many layers. And also in Peru they have a lime that they use there. It's almost like a key lime. It's not as tart and sour as the one that we have here. It's sweeter. So they're ceviches, and they're always just sea salt and lime. And they use chiles from Peru, ají amarillo, ají panca. That's a traditional chiles from Peru. Amazing stuff.
Would you say that ceviche is like the same thing as jaiba? Have you ever had jaiba?
Yeah, jaiba ceviche is, it's ceviche basically, what it is, and I want to say that, I should know this, but I don't, but I want to say that they were doing the ceviche hundreds of years ago, before, because the heat back then, it wasn't like now that way people have restaurants and, this and that, or kitchens, so when you're, just fishing and you get some good fish, they figure out, whoever did this fisherman, they figure out they can cure, the acid of the lime cures, or cooks the fish, it cures it, and they can eat it. So that's just, ceviche, that's what it is. And once you do the salt, and you always start with really good salt and really good limes, and then from there you can do whatever you want. I have a ceviche verde that has, the one I have right now, it has cilantro, and parsley, but before I was doing the mint, basil. I was doing basil in my ceviche verde before. Peruano has ginger, chiles. Right now I have a new one. It's the Japanese inspired one that has soy, a little bit of sesame oil, and citrus. It's almost like a poke, like my take on a poke, Hawaiian poke. It's salty, a little bit spicy. That's a good one too. Yeah. Any other questions?
You mix Sonora, liquid tomato and olives?
Do I do what I'm sorry?
Northern state?
Yes.
Like in Hawaii?
Yeah.
I used to go fishing there. Your ramagos in the summer?
Yeah. I never made it, but yeah, a guy that used to work with me, he used to make it. he used to make it like that with tomatoes, capers, olives, and it was really delicious, different. Yeah, and jalapenos, yeah.
They don't have the hot pepper,
Yeah,
but also they call it chile verde.
right. So, yeah. Yeah, he's there.
Is there anywhere that you haven't traveled that you want to still?
You know, if I had the money and the time, I'd probably go to Spain. Spain, Italy. I think it's Japan. I work with Japanese too long, so I'm kind of like, I'm over the smell of soy and vinegar in my clothes, so I'm kind of like, maybe Japan is not, but Japan is, those guys, have you guys watched a movie, what's the movie, the Japanese guy? Dreams of Sushi. Jiro Dreams of Sushi. Okay, if you haven't seen the movie, you gotta watch the movie. There's a guy, seriously, like this. Unfortunately, in America or Mexico, and it's a good thing. They give us the freedom to do whatever we want. Our parents are like, dream big, do whatever you want. Play sports or do this. My wife is half Japanese, half Irish. His grandma, yeah, it's weird. His grandma, when they came here, it was during the war. His grandparents were so strict. They couldn't eat candy. No TV, no this, no that. You have to read and study, and they devote themselves into anything that they do. It's unbelievable. Jiro Dreams of Sushi. It's the honest truth of. They take so much pride and honor. Have you guys watched Iron Chef? Yeah, if you guys ever watched Morimoto and Bobby Flay, when those guys went head to head, Bobby Flay, American, of course, he won, and or the end of the thing, he threw the cutting board and he stood on the thing and did the whole, but the Japanese were like, offended by this thing, because it was like, you just don't do that, because they just take so much pride in what they do and how they do it. Do you have to do it that strict? No. You can still do it your way. You can still, it's a roadmap, guys. Cooking is, you have a point and you just have to focus and follow it. You can do this along the way. You can cook here, you can cook there, you can do this, you can do that, you can read. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you drop out or anything, but because I didn't go to culinary school. I wish I did. But do this, do it to your best of your ability, put the time, and like I said, you'll get better jobs if you have a degree, for sure. Of course, there's still going to be the time of cooking and getting ready for that step, because it's funny. They asked Bobby Flay, would you rather get a culinary school student, or would you rather get a cook that cooks in the kitchen? They asked a couple of chefs, and most chefs say, like 3 chefs, French and Italian, I want to say, Mario Vitali and Bobby Flay, they said, I'd rather get someone from the kitchen that has kitchen experience. Anthony Bourdain said the same thing, but some of the other guys, the more traditional guys, they said, no, I'd rather get a guy that comes from a culinary school, because they have the background, they have, and also someone that, someone like you, if you are a graduate and you have a job or you already work in 1 or 2 kitchens, that just shows you that you're committed. You already put your time into it.
How many of our graduates do you have working for you? The last time I went there was a bunch of them.
It's that's the one thing we have right now. They opened El Encanto up there. Encanto, they have a good chef up there that he worked in, I want to say, France or England and Japan for 10 years. So he's a Michelin star restaurant chef. So he's no joke, So he's serious, and he's took some of the best talent in town with him, because of course, you want to work with the best, We're good, but we're not that good, But I lost Andrew. Andrew was a great kid. He was doing the roll bar. He had great energy, very focused, super clean. He worked super clean, very like this. So I lost him, but I still have Kiki. Kiki's over there. I have, who else I have? My sister's gonna work in the summer. And then I think we're looking for one more person to help us. So we need someone motivated, someone ready to learn, someone that wants to put the time. It's funny, like a lot of people think like, oh, there's secrets in cooking and this and that. The little bit of stuff that I know, I always share with my staff. Like even when I'm not there, Damon, my other sous chef, he also went to culinary school. He's older now, he has kids, but he went to culinary school. He's from Ohio, but he's embraced the food, and he respects kind of my recipes and my style. And but when it's time to, we always work together. Sometimes he goes like, let's do ribs, and then I go, yeah, but how can we make him? So I tell him, let's make a sauce. If we can do some to match the restaurant and my style and the food, let's do it. And he does it. I respect it. So we work well together. So he's another graduate, and there was another 2 kids. Andy also was working with us, and there's another girl that came here that was gonna start working with us soon. So yeah, we have quite a few guys there. Any other questions, guys, before we go?
You said you go to like Spain and Italy.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming you go to eat. So what would you be looking to eat while you're there?
Unfortunately, the restaurant that I wanted to go, Bully, I think is closed now. I think they're not doing it anymore. But I like, Spain and Italy, just like Tokyo. I always, when I go to places, I always put, I have a.
Well, you have to have an interest in something specific more, right?
I do, but it's mostly, I like to experience the culture. A lot of people think like, oh, you go around and go different nice restaurants. You can do that, and I do that, but it's expensive. You go to some of these fancy restaurants, it's going to cost you a couple $100. If you go to the best restaurants, Mexico City, So I usually go to one nice restaurant, whoever it is. If it's, Andrea Ferrer or, or Mario Vitali, I go to the one restaurant, go one day, and that's it, I usually go to where the people is. I usually go to the markets. It's free. I don't have to pay any. It's free. You go see there. You go to the beach to the fishermen, see what they're doing, see how they cook it. Sometimes these people just they love Americans. They love when you're from somewhere else. They want to teach you. They want to show you what they're doing. Sometimes like where would you go? We went to close to Nayarit one time, and this guy, he was fishing, had all this fish. And I just started asking about the fish, what size and what's the name of the fish and how do you cook it? And he's like, you have time? I'm like, yeah. What do you want to do? He's like, let's go to my house, let's cook it. I'm like, all right. So he makes ceviche for me. He made a grilled fish, and I gave him $10. It cost me $10, and it was like he made like a 4-course meal for me. It would have cost me how much at a restaurant? I learned more. I learned about the culture. I learned about the climate of the place, the waters, the danger, the goods and the bads of So I usually just go and talk to the people. Spain. It's funny if I go to Spain. I speak Spanish, so it should be easy. But their Spanish is different. And they know that. So I probably go there and, like I said, markets and small homes and cafes. So I'll do that. Yeah.
I have been 3 times in Andalusia summertime.
Oh yeah?
If you don't have too much money, go any bar. There's a lot of seafood there.
Yeah.
Good. Also, the Spanish, the only thing that is different is the accent.
Yeah, the accent is different
And the idiomatic expressions.
Right.
Now, if you go to the Basque Country, you're going to find a lot of total different food there.
Right.
Or if you go to Madrid, you're going to find it from all over the place.
Right. Yeah, so it's the same thing with Mexico, and even in America. The food that we're cooking in California and New Orleans or Ohio or New York or Miami, it's everywhere it's different. People think it's the same thing. It's not the same thing. It's some places do fish tacos, or some places do like fish and chips, clam chowder, here or there. It's crazy. We have amazing food. So also, you don't have to travel somewhere else. You can find some amazing food now. You can go to San Diego and find some of the best Mexican food. Because it's close to the border. You can go there, and seriously, you can. Portland. I went to Portland. I'll be with you in a second. I went to Portland. I was blown away how good the food was in Portland. I swear. It was like, because I never went to Portland before. I just heard the weather sucks, but I didn't care because I like that kind of weather. I thought it was cool. I thought it was so cool. The weather, I mean, some of the best pizza I ever had. I don't drink too much beer, but I like the beer they were doing over there. I was tasting the beer, I'm like, this is cool. Coffee. I mean, the cool thing about Portland is that people take their jobs seriously. I mean, it's not like this part-time job where I can just, hang out. From the coffee guys to the guys making the pizza to we went to Beast, went to some amazing restaurants in Portland. Portland, if you guys ever want to go to a city where they have some good food, Portland. I mean, Beast, French. We went to Pigeon. He has Little Bird also. This I can't remember his name, but this amazing chef. I had some of the best donuts. I'm not a big donut guy, but Buddha Donuts, 2 in the morning.
It's the only place I've ever waited an hour and a half to get donuts.
Man, that thing was. I was about to walk away. I was like, okay, this is too much, but I waited, and yeah, it was worth it. So yeah, sorry.
That's okay. What's the best way to contact you?
Well, you guys can. Yeah, I didn't bring my business cards, but yeah, you can come by Cielito, or I can just give you my number. You can text me or call me.
Any special day?
Best day of the week is usually Tuesday or Wednesday. It's the beginning of the week. I usually have a little bit more time. So those days are better for me. Yeah. Any more questions, guys?
What time is good?
After lunch, before dinner, in between 2 and 5. Yeah, I usually can get to my phone, or you can just walk by the restaurant and see the restaurant also. Say hi. Yeah.
Can I interview you next Wednesday?
Next Wednesday, can you interview me? He already did.
We can have a class interview right now.
Yes.
What does your wife do? Does she cook also?
No,
Do you
she
enjoy
did.
the same?
She doesn't cook. No, she. Yeah, and this is the weird thing about my wife. It's she's a PE teacher, and she's a fitness, person. So she works at an athletic club. She teaches like kickboxing, spinning, PE. She eats healthy. I don't. I mean, I like food, so I eat ice cream. I eat, whatever I like, I just eat. But she's definitely more. Maybe that's why we're together and it works, because we're totally different. She's a morning person. We get up at 5 in the morning. I go to bed at 1. 2 in the morning. I get up at 8 or 9. So, we're totally different in that sense. But we do love food. I mean, we most of the time. But she doesn't eat like Sometimes I've been to places where seriously we eat from 9 in the morning or 8 in the morning to midnight. We probably eat at 10 different places. But I don't get every single thing at a place. But sometimes when I travel, I know I'm not going to be back there for a year or 2 years. So I like to, eat as much as I can, go to different places, markets. Well, I'll try, like a drink here, and then I go there and try one more thing and go somewhere else. And it just becomes this cool thing, That's it. Hey, we're good? We're good. Well, thank you so much, guys.